120p is a feature that cameras have that lets you slow down your footage 5 times slower, as opposed to the more traditional 60p that only lets you slow down half the speed. With that being said, is 120p a feature that we should all seek out for? It's pretty freaking dope. 120p is a really useful feature as it gives you more options while editing. Because your footage is 5 times slower, that means that your normal 1 second footage is now equal to 5 seconds of beautiful slow motion footage. So that means that if you shot something terrible but there was only 1 second of usable footage, you now have 5 seconds of perfectly usable footage. Not only that, it also helps stabilizing your shots. It doesn't stabilize the same way a gimbal will, but because the footage is slowed down, it also slows down those camera shakes, making every camera shake less noticeable. If we look at these two videos side by side, one is shot in 24p, while the other is shot at 120p. Even if both are shot with the same non-stabilized lens, the 120p looks way cleaner because it's slowed down. Last but not least, you can also use this as normal 24p footage. Although it won't follow the 180-degree shutter rule, as now you'll be shooting at a shutter speed of 250th of a second, the footage will still play out normally on a 24p timeline, as 120 is divisible by 24. So you won't drop frames. This is a problem that your normal 60p can't do because 60 isn't divisible by 24, so every 2.5 frames it needs to skip a frame. It comes at a cost. Now, although having 5x slow motion is cool, it also means that your camera needs 5 times more light than usual. The reason why is because you need to follow the 180-degree shutter rule, which states that you need to shoot at a shutter speed that is double your frame rate. Normally, if I shoot at 24p, I need to shoot at 1/50th of a second, but if I shoot at 120p, now I need to leave my shutter at 1/250th of a second. So when you shoot at 120p, now everything is 2 stops underexposed. Another problem that I get when I shoot on 120p is that I get a small crop on my footage. Now that may be just a problem with my camera, but that also leaves us to our next problem, which is price. So because your camera now needs 5 times more images than usual, it also means that your camera needs 5 times more processing power than usual, and that comes at a cost. Actually, many camera manufacturers compromise on something when you switch to 120p. Some cameras lose autofocus while others cut out on audio, and some can only shoot it at 720p. All this to say, finding a camera that can shoot 120p with no drawbacks becomes really expensive, so how much better is it? So if you compare 60p to 120p, there is still a difference. You can still see how much slower the footage is. With that being said, it's still slow motion. You don't get a leap as big as going from 24p to 60p, where you're going from normal speed to slow motion. Instead, you go from slow motion to, well, slower motion. I think that's when we see the law of diminishing return coming into play. When it went from 24p to 60p, went from 100% speed to 40%. Now that's a 60% difference. Now when we go from 60p to 120, now we go from 40% speed to 20% speed. And that's only a 20% difference. What's interesting is that my GoPro Hero 8 actually has access to 240 frames per second. And so going from 120 frames per second to 240 frames per second, you're going from 20% speed to 10% speed. That's only a 10% difference. So when you double the amount of frames, you only get half back. And that's when you can see the curve flattening. If you just need basic slow motion, you can get away with 60p. With that being said, if you have access to 120p, there's really no reasons for you to not use it, except for low light slow motions where 60p will beat it in that regards. So if we go back to the question at hand, do you need 120p? No, not really. But do you want it? Well, that's a question you should answer for yourself.